Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Whether you are a sales professional, not in sales, but interested in helping people solve problems, or you're a founder, CEO, looking to grow your business, you'll find practical tools, stories, and experience you can apply to your role. This is Mike Simmons. I'm the founder of Catalyst Sale. I'm excited to have Andy Racic and David Weiss on the podcast this week. Andy and David are the authors of Your Definitive Sales Career Guide. Andy, David, thanks for joining me. How are you guys doing?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
I am doing awesome. Well, so you guys just launched a book. Can you share with the audience a little bit about the background on the book and why you wrote it?
Sure. I guess I'll go first. This is Andy for the people listening. So David and I were super passionate about the sales community in general, and we looked around at all the resources out there, and we noticed that there's tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of books and podcasts and websites and super useful resources about how to sell and how to sell almost any given thing. But we didn't really see anything about what sales is, like what an actual professional career in sales is, who should be in it, and then if you are interested in it and you are a good fit for it, kind of how to go and pursue that. We essentially saw that there was kind of a gap in the market, and as people that I think have a really big passion for sales and what sales can do for individuals and their careers and their lives, we wanted to evangelize the profession and try to help bring the right people into it.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I'll echo that. And I want to give a lot of credit to Andy. It was his idea to write the book. He approached me with it. When we started talking through the idea, I was like, man, this is a unique concept. And for me personally, I spend a lot of time trying to give back to the sales community. I feel like I've had some great mentors over the years. And I'm at a point where I've learned a lot, I've helped a lot of people, and I want to now help a broader audience. And when Andy approached me with this idea, I was like, man, this is such a cool way to not only do something unique, but also do something that if we do it right and we get this in the hands of people kind of really at the very beginning of debating if sales is right for them, we can have a positive impact on the future of sales and all future sellers, and really help shepherd in the next generation of salespeople. So it seemed like such a cool project and such a cool idea. And we embraced it, and really happy we got a chance to actually write it.
So why do you guys think people avoid sales or avoid getting into the profession?
I don't know I don't have enough data to say people avoid it, but I do feel like, and it's one of the things that we talked about in almost the first few pages of the book, is a lot of the myths that still hover around sales. And, when I ask non-sales professionals what they think of salespeople or what comes to mind when you ask them, when you say the word salesperson, and we even asked sales professionals, we surveyed a couple hundred people for the book to get their thoughts on that exact question. And things that come to mind are still and I've got nothing against car salespeople, but it's still the used car sales mentality or the snake oil salesperson or what have you. So there's, even today, after all the good press and all the good work I feel like the modern generation of sellers has done, there's still this old school mentality around those things. And I think that still, hurts people thinking about a career.
Yeah, and just piggyback on that a little bit. I think for a lot of people, unless, someone in their family or their very close network is directly or intimately involved in sales, they probably don't have a clear understanding of what modern professional sales is and how it should be conducted. Because, everyone at some point has bought stuff, and, that's why the used car salesperson stereotype exists. Because, for a lot of people, at least up until a certain point in their life, buying a car is one of the biggest purchases that they've made. And, unfortunately, it's not hard to get hired at some dealerships, not all dealerships, but, people can just get a very bad taste in their mouth about the experience of being a buyer when the salesperson doesn't care about you and the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And that just colors the rest of the profession. And people are like, I don't want to be like that. And they don't know that there's a better version of that out there.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, it's amazing the biases that we can create just based on personal experience, that pushiness. And we get into these situations. It's kind of funny. We all enjoy buying things, but we don't like being sold to. It's one of those things that brings a smile to folks' face is when I ask that question, how many people like to be sold to, and then follow it up with how many people like to buy things. So when you think of this at an early career stage, one of the things that's happening is it seems like more and more universities are bringing in sales programs into their schools. Is that a trend that you think will continue?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, after we wrote this, David and I started looking at, hey, how do we bring this to the market? And David found some resources, and I think he identified some around 150 different universities, probably about 130, maybe 140 of which are in the United States, that have, if not full-on sales programs, at least sales courses or sales minors. And it's one of those things where, the importance of a proper sales function in a company. I mean, business owners have known this for years and decades, but now it's becoming that much more apparent that, there is full on, theory and models and right ways to do sales, that you can teach this and you can train it. And if we're teaching people how to be accountants, and we're teaching people how to be graphic designers in schools and all the other functions that you would find in a business and need in a business, then why not teach people how to be salespeople when that's the people that are driving your revenue? So it's really encouraging to see how many programs are out there and how many of them are, just getting started.
Yeah, when Andy and I were in school, I don't believe there were any, and not to date ourselves or anything. It's not like we're, but there were no sales programs. And I think it's really interesting, the maturity that I feel like sales is going through right now. It's a profession that's been around for a really, really long time. But for so long, it was either ignored or looped under marketing, especially from a school perspective. And I feel like it's starting to get to that point. And maybe it was challenger sale, or maybe it's, all the work that's been done by, people like you and others, before, that have really started to make sales more of an art, more or less of an art, more of a science, or a fair balance of both, where it's something that can be taught and should be broken out and does have a huge impact within businesses. So I do feel like it is becoming way more mainstream, and it's going to continue going that way. I mean, we're even seeing the rise of sales competitions now, which we've never seen before. So it's really cool.
It's pretty exciting times. So as you guys have gone through and you've had conversations with professors at these schools, what are some of the messages that have been resonating with those folks as it relates specifically to developing sales talent, or even sharing some insight with folks on why a career in sales might be the right move for them?
I think we're seeing more and more people interested in the profession because of the need that businesses have. Companies are always looking for more salespeople. Sales is maturing and becoming, more of those industries that you can get into, have a long career in, which was a myth. Like, people thought that you couldn't be a career salesperson, or maybe you did the same thing. Like, there's a lot more career pathing than there ever has been in sales. And and both Andy and I, we're not in this to make money. We're in this to help our clients and help people achieve goals and things like that. But people are realizing that sales is one of those professions that if you're good at it, you can make a living that far surpasses most other professions with one of the lowest barriers of entry. I mean, if you think about it, like my wife has her PhD in psychology. She went to school for over 10 plus years, then postdoc, then all these other things. And from a revenue perspective, maybe early on people don't have that ability to make that level of money, but from a long tail, salespeople, can be some of the highest earners out there and get into it very easily.
Well, and a lot of the concepts, the skills, the traits apply across many roles, across many areas of the business. So, with these these skills that you talk about in the book, and as folks start to think about leveling up or raising up the profession, you realize, look, sales is about helping people solve problems. I mean, I think at the core, and I know a number of folks have heard me say that over and over again, it's this idea of connecting the dots between problem and solution. And those, in every role, you run into some problems and you're trying to figure out the solution in a given day. And some people, it may not be the primary part of compensation, but it is part of what they do.
Yeah. I mean, there was this great article that Forbes, or we referenced in the book somewhere, that more CEOs, a disproportionate number of CEOs had sales in their backgrounds than anything else. So it is this great foundational career to, lead businesses or lead operations, because you truly understand, how to build a business, generate revenue, make that sustainable, work with people. There's so many cross-functional skills that being in sales teaches you, that really prepares you to do a lot of different things. So it's a really neat profession.
Yeah, I still think back to the process that I went through as I was even discovering what sales was like professionally and why I was attracted to the career itself. And obviously the reputation of money is there. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't matter at all. But more important to me was just the understanding that here's a professional skill set that I can develop that'll allow me to effectively be more effective at life. If you look at good and accomplished salespeople, they're excellent communicators. They understand how to engage with people. They understand how to learn about them and what they're working on, and then they figure out how to help them. And then they also go and help them. And in some cases, the help is understanding, hey, I can't help you, so I'm going to stop wasting your time and leave you alone. In some cases, the help is, I might be able to, but actually, you should probably go talk to this other person or this other company. That's the best thing for you. But then, of course, in a lot of cases, it's, I know what you're dealing with. Me or my company know how to solve that problem. So let's work on this together and get you to a better state.
So you guys designed the book with a specific intent, and you called it Your Definitive Sales Career Guide for a reason. Why'd you go this route?
We just wanted to be pretty much as clear as you could possibly be about the title. So there really wasn't any ambiguity about what we were doing or what it was about. Because even now with that title being as on the nose as it is, I still occasionally get questions that are like, oh, so this is this will teach me how to sell. And it's like, we touch on that a little bit, but that's not really the point. What we're trying to do is just tell you what sales is, and if you are interested in that path, here's your guide. So follow the instructions that we've laid out, and you will probably have a pretty good career in sales, and at the very least, a good start to it.
At least a good start to it for sure. And just as a funny sidebar, I don't know if your audience will enjoy this, but I definitely enjoy this. You should have seen the notepad that Andy and I had when we were debating titles, because we probably listed out like 50-something titles that we were debating going with. And things like WTF is sales was on there, and lots of other funny things like this. And we ended up with Your Definitive Sales Career Guide because it was on the nose, professional, explain what the book was about. So. But Mike, we didn't always know where we were going. There was definitely some iterations of titles.
Yeah, so talk through that process. Like, what's the debate look like internally as you put this stuff up? So sounds like you guys have a couple of ideas. You throw all the ideas on some note cards or post-its. Just share, like, what did that process look like?
I would send Andy tons of things in the middle of the night as I'd wake up and text him something, and then he would send me things, and I had veto power and he had veto power, and we were like, no, that sucks. No, that sucks. And there was a lot of just back and forth. No. And we eventually landed on like 3 or 4 things we liked. And then did we crowdsource this one, Andy, or how do we narrow it down? I forget.
I think the title we just went with, I know with the cover art, we crowdsourced a bit of feedback from that one. But yeah, I mean, David and I, despite being experienced salespeople, we're actually not necessarily super experienced marketers. So we just kind of shot from the hip on this one. I imagine there's just a better way of going about the process than we did, but we landed on a spot that we were pretty happy about.
So how do you distinguish between sales and marketing?
That's a great question. And I feel like I saw that recently defined somewhere on LinkedIn. And I've got a lot of marketing friends, and I don't want to I don't want to say anything that may make my marketing friends angry. I guess
I'll hop in here. So I've been very fortunate, especially recently, to work with some really good marketing people internally at my company, and it took me a really long time to warm up to the full value of marketing when it comes to driving revenue. Because previously, I'd been in a lot of positions where I was very, very far away from marketing, and while I have the fortune of relying on my company's brand, I didn't really give much value or didn't attribute much value to what the marketing team did for that. But the way I would look at it is that marketing and sales are 2 parts of one function, which is, call it the revenue operations function, or how you want to term it. But marketing is generally a one-to-many kind of message, and sales is a one-to-few and then eventually one-to-one kind of message. I mean, marketing provides a ton of value, but they're not having the individual conversations and they're not driving the individual deals along. They're essentially empowering sales to go and get into more of those conversations and give them some of the tools and resources that they need to close the business. I'm certainly not going to say that one is more impactful than the other. I have my own bias, but I really do appreciate what a lot of the marketing folks out there do for their businesses. It's just not the path that I've gone down, at least thus far.
Yeah,
What's your bias?
I'm a sales guy.
Yeah. And if
okay.
I was,
it's okay to have that bias, right? I mean, we choose the professions that we choose for a reason. You know, so it's okay to have those biases. I think the thing that interests me in the book and what you guys are doing with it and how you're approaching schools is you're helping students inside these schools overcome some of the biases that might be driven by the school to move people more toward a marketing function instead of a sales function. And I know some of that's a little bit old school thinking. I mean, back when I was in school, and actually I thought it was pretty interesting that David said back when he and you were in school, and I can tell you just by looking at you guys, I don't think either of you guys were in school at the same time. I think there's
I look much younger.
Oh, you look a lot younger. So, but as you go through this, like there's this bias that gets created when you talk about like a marketing focused program or marketing 101 inside a business school. And there's not really a sales 101. So I think being able to provide a resource like the one that you've put together really gives people some insight and some direction into a path that they can take that's different than what may have been a traditional path a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And Mike, as I kind of think through to help the audience that maybe listens delineate the two, marketing to me feels a lot like especially in business to business, the front end interest generation, where sales is more of the carry through of the funnel. So once you get someone interested, actually converting that interest into action and a sale or an end result feels more like a sales function, where casting a wide net and getting people to even understand or see your brand or your thing feels more like a marketing function. So they're kind of like, if I was to think about a funnel, marketing sits more at the top where sales fits more in the middle and the end. I don't know if that's correct or how my marketing friends would feel about that, but that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, yeah. And I mean, you talked about it a little bit earlier. I forget if it was you or Andy who had mentioned the revenue operations as a model. I mean, you look at the beginning of that stage, it might be more marketing may own more of the value chain. Toward the middle of that phase, sales might take on more of the value chain. And then toward the end of it, it may be more of a customer success, customer experience team as part of that value chain. And then depending on the type of business you operate in, how those things work and flow back into each other. And marketing as a function can be both for existing customers as well as potential customers, because depending on the product you're delivering, you want people to use more of that product and drive engagement across an organization. So I think one of the cool things that's happening in this space right now is there's an opportunity to get much more specialized in the way that we approach each of our roles. And it highlights the importance of proper communication and alignment across each of these individual groups. So guys, what are the gaps that this book fills that other books that have been published in the last year or two, or even 10 years related to sales do not fill?
You know, Mike, there are a lot of books about how to sell. We wanted to approach this from a different perspective. We wanted to look and say, is sales even right for you? So the very early part is let's just, get myths aside. Then let's help people dissect from how they get out of bed every morning. What are their strengths? Do they have natural strengths of agency where they can help people, help drive change and help, get people to think of things differently? Do they have high degrees of urgency, high degrees of extroversion where they like meeting and new people and talking to folks? Like, let's diagnose personality first to make sure that you're going to be excited to get out of bed every day and go be a salesperson. Once people understand, this is a great profession, they have the right DNA for it, and it's something, through the first kind of section of the book that they're excited about doing, they understand what they love and hate about sales and things like that. We share those perspectives. Then we're really getting into, and there's not enough of this, especially in school, which is actually how to get a job. Like school, you get a degree. They teach you all the things you need to know in your work, in theory, but they don't actually teach you how to get the job itself. So we help people understand that. I mean, I've been in the recruiting space for a long time. Andy was a recruiter. So we've had a lot of experience with what does a good resume look like and what tools and tips you need to find a job and apply to that job. And then, what type of situational or task or STAR type questions, which is a methodology of asking and answering questions, should someone, prepare for to get ahead of their potential peers that are also interviewing. So, and then we get into some tips and tricks about how to, actually be successful in sales. So that's really where the differentiator comes for a lot of these kind of people graduating college or early professionals thinking about the career itself is, we're going to help you understand if it's right for you. And we're going to help you understand how to get the job itself and then teach you how to be successful.
Awesome. So who should go and pick it up today?
There's a bunch of different categories, but I think the person that could probably benefit most from grabbing this book would be essentially a business school professor that's trying to build a sales program and drive attendance in the program. Because at a certain point, they're probably going to be covering coursework on, hey, this is what sales is. This is how it works. Here's a process. Here's a methodology. Maybe have some internships where the students are actually going out and working for some local companies. But that only solves the challenge of if there's already a demand. Whereas this book is essentially an introduction to sales and essentially trying to garner some interest from people that would otherwise be turned off to it. So if I'm trying to build a program and I'm trying to get students to enroll in it, because I know in my heart that that's a good and valuable thing to do for me, for my community, for my university, then I want some sort of recruitment tool for students that want to actually join this program. And this is something that, David and I, as I think we've hopefully covered a couple times throughout this podcast, we're super interested in partnering with people and helping them get to the end state that they want to. And if this book is a means to an end for them, but they don't necessarily have the rest of that, defined or built out, like, hey, how do I structure this course? How do I pitch this internally, et cetera? We love those kinds of problems, the open sky, open field problems. Bring us in all day long. That's free consulting that we'd love to do.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It provides a roadmap that can help reveal many of the blind spots that you might have as you're putting together a program like this. So for folks who want to reach out to you directly, how do they contact you guys? How do they find you?
For me, we've got LinkedIn is probably best for me, but then we also have a website, Your Sales Career Guide. I think we registered like 4 domains, and I'm actually forgetting all of our domains. So I would say Your Sales Career Guide is one, Sales Career Book I think is another, and then feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's probably the easiest. Yeah,
LinkedIn is definitely where I'm most responsive for sure.
Perfect. We'll include links in the show notes. Guys, thanks for joining me on the Catalyst Sale podcast today. Please follow Andy and David on LinkedIn and check out their book, Your Definitive Sales Career Guide. I'll include links in the show notes. If you know someone who'd benefit from hearing this discussion, please share it with them.